This is Gabby from mythesiscoach.com, and today I want to share with you some ideas about how to read an academic article. Now, if you are working on any long form academic project, particularly a thesis, you are going to find yourself having to do a ton of reading. And this is great. It's wonderful to learn new stuff and get into kind of the world of knowledge. That's fantastic. But let's face it, we are busy people. Our thesis is very seldom the only thing that we are doing. And because we are busy, it means we don't have hours and hours and hours and hours and hours to sit and kind of throw ourselves into this world of reading and going down paths and all kinds of things. Look, there might be time for that in your academic journey, but I'm assuming that most of the time you are juggling your academic responsibilities with life as well. So I want to share with you some ideas today about how to save time when you are reading academic articles. The first thing I want to explain is that academic articles may look really scary, they do, but they're pretty fixed format, which means in most cases, they'll generally have the same structure running through them. They normally start with an intro, then they share some literature around the topic. Next up, they go on and describe their methodology. They go on to share the results. There's a bit of a discussion, and then things tie up at the end in the conclusion. So it's normally very clearly organized. Not always, and sometimes those sections have different names, but in general, that's the structure that it follows. So you can decide when you are sitting down to read this document, you got to think, what am I needing to do with this document? And that's an important tip that I want to share with you. Before you read an academic article, think to yourself, why am I reading this? For example, are you needing to find out a little bit more literature about the thing that you're writing, that you're working on? Say you're writing your thesis and you're writing a literature review. You're probably reading that article so that you can share a little bit more information. You can kind of learn more about the topic that the article is about. Or you may be perhaps coming up with your methodology and you're wanting to see what other people who've researched something similar what methodology they've used. In that case, you know the methodology section is going to be the part that's really important. Or you might just be interested in, like, they ran their experiment, what happened? That might be what you're looking for. Perhaps you're writing about different results from the project. In that case, the results will be the section that's the most important. So never think that you have to sit down and read the article from beginning to end. If you know your motivation or your purpose, what you're trying to get out of the article, you can direct your reading to the specific parts. So that's the first thing I'll say. The next thing that I will say is that, remember, your abstract is incredibly important. Or an article's abstract is very important. The abstract is like a little mini summary of what's in the full article. So there's normally an abstract to an academic article. There's normally like a sentence of intro, a little sentence explaining why it's an important topic. That's kind of almost like the literature review if we were taking the article and putting it in the abstract. There's a little sentence about method, there's a sentence about results, there's a sentence about discussion. So that abstract is like a little summary of the full article. So before you dive into reading the whole article, read that abstract and think to yourself, is this worth the time I'm going to invest in it? And the answer might be no. You might find out then that actually, no, this isn't what you're looking for. In which case, ditch the article and move on to something else. There's always more to read. So that's the abstract. If you have decided, however, after reading the abstract that it is something that's important and valuable for you, then move on and read the introduction. See, that's going to tell you a little bit of background to the project, what it's about, and what they did quite generally. So from that introduction, you ask yourself again, is this worth spending more time focusing on? If the answer is no, then you say, thank you very much, article. I'm not so interested in you today. And you pick up another article and you put that one aside. Don't spend time reading something just for the sake of kind of surviving the article. I know I've done that. I'm like, I'm going to finish this article. And then I get to the end and I'm like, I don't know what just happened in my life. You don't want to do that. There's always more stuff for you to read. So yeah, read that introduction, decide, is that something valuable for you? If you decide that it is, I would recommend that the next thing you have to do is jump all the way to the end, to the conclusion, and read the conclusion. That's going to really sum it all up and say, get a little recap of what happened and what you did. Hi there. Thanks for joining. I can see someone's joining our live chat. Thank you so much. So the question is, you're going to read that conclusion. From the conclusion, that's going to give you a little recap of what happened in the full article, and you're going to read that, focus on that, do some clear reading. Once you've read that conclusion, by then you should know whether this is the article for you to read or not. If it's not, good. Imagine all that time you've saved not reading the full article. You now get to simply pass it off, get something else to read. However, if you read that conclusion and you realize that it's still a valuable article, then you need to do that focused reading. Focused reading is reading where you're really zoning in, you're reading actively, maybe you're taking some notes, maybe if you're old school like me, you got a highlighter and you're highlighting things that are important. If you're working on a tablet, maybe you're underlining things. That's where you're really dedicating that focus and concentration to. And that's such an important part of the thesis journey. I'll talk more another time about reading within the thesis journey. It's completely vital. Yes, we write a thesis, but so much reading goes into it. So you're going to need that focused, concentrated reading, but I'm suggesting that you save it for papers that are really valuable and really important. And indeed, for the parts of the paper that are really valuable and really important for you. There is so much to read. So why spend time on parts that you can't really, why spend time on papers that aren't really going to help you and you're not really going to uplift or contribute to your project? So I hope that that has given you some strategies for when you go about doing your academic reading. Don't forget to like my Facebook page at mythesiscoach.com for more tips, tricks, and ideas. You can subscribe here to my YouTube channel. I'll be sharing many more tips as we go by. My website is www.mythesiscoach.com, and I'm really looking forward to connecting with you in the future. Cheers.